What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mechs on Deck. My name is Osiris. This is Chewy. How you doing?
Hello. I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a good day. It's a good Monday.
Yeah?
The kids weren't actively terrible today.
We back.
We back, man. It's been a week. It's been a busy week over at Mechs on Deck. You've been way busier than I have. Talk about pulling their load.
So okay.
Your boy has not done much.
I have a couch behind me now.
Yeah, dude, casting couch.
Yeah, I've got a couch behind me. Dude, we've got some Camel sucks.
Camel sucks.
Thank you for the 4 months of tier 1. We love you too. And then Frisco Melt, thank you for the 6 months of the Twitch Prime sub. Very much appreciated. Yeah, it's a busy week. Also 159, I think you're VIP now if you want to type in chat and check that out. Anubis is chilling. My camera's a little bit wider. Your camera looks a little bit better. Little upgrades.
It's been a fun weekend. Dude, I've done a lot. Like we'll get into it in mail day, I guess, here in a sec. Quick shout out. There it is. There's the little diamond for 159. We'll start with that. 159 runs Project Keyboards. You can go check out Project Keyboards. Still running at GMK Perestroika. And I think my throat just like burped itself. My apologies. So yeah, go check that out. You can use our link. It helps us with this, with the stream, the upgrades, the fun stuff, the stuff that makes it more fun for us so that we can make it more fun for you. Looks more red than usual. Thank you. I'll get into that in just a few. But thank you. Be sure to check out Project Keyboard. He's got some awesome stuff coming out, as well as Dixie Mech. You can get a mechsondeck.dixiemech.com to check out GMK Modern Dolch. About a week left on that. Don't want to miss that set. That's going to be, to me, early pick 2021 set of the year. The Mech Madness champ. Calling it now. You heard it here first. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to fill out your brackets. A couple more days left for Mech Madness 2020. So we will be starting our coverage of that on Friday, which we'll get into after the sponsors. And then last but not least, make sure you get in on Modern Dolce. You can be a part of the Dixie Dozen and get 20% off for 12 months.
Yep. And then, okay, sorry, I totally wasn't paying attention there.
No, you're good, man. There's a lot of stuff. Why don't we shout out the people?
Yeah, let's shout out some people. All right. Tarson, thank you. Cool dude. Met him a couple weeks ago.
He's like freakishly tall.
He's an awesome guy. He's a cool dude. Had lunch with him, Colt, and Rick Clack. It was a good time. Thank you for continuing your sub that you got from 159. And then Skewed, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 2 months. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very confused as to why my dog is currently facing the wall, just like looking. He's sitting looking at the wall.
Wall's interesting.
No. Shout outs to Starstone. Thank you for the 100 bits. And that will lead us right into Type Beast. Check out Type Beast. I don't know if you went through that one, did you?
No, not yet.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm so
Project
sorry.
and Dixie Mech.
All right, cool. Scuffed stream. All right. You can go.
We're professionals, guys. Come on.
Cannon Keys. Big shout outs to Upas. You can head on over to cannonkeys.com/mechsondeck. He's got tons of stuff coming up. He's got GMK Honey running next month. Definitely want to check that out. It's a pretty cool set. And he's doing lots of cool stuff recently. He's got the Wrecked coming soon, the 1800 layout board. So keep your eyes peeled for that, as well as I know he's kind of teased some restocks of the Brutal and the Savage as well. So keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, as well as GMK Finer Things, I still believe is in group buy. Maybe I could be wrong. Who knows?
I think it is. It's
Anyway.
got a couple days left.
Yeah, we're wrapping up the month of February. So but yeah, so and then next up we have Zap Cables. He makes some of the best cables out there. He makes the best cables out there. Thank you, Dixie. And then so he makes awesome desk mats as well. So if you need cables, desk mats, any of that stuff, some of the best stickers too. Just shout out, he makes some awesome stickers. So be sure to go check out Zap Cables. And last but not least, the first sponsor we had on this channel, switchmod.net/Mechs on deck, gives you 4% off of your lube and springs and other awesome stuff there. So be sure. And the TR60, I believe, is still chilling. There's still a couple more boards left. So be sure to check all that stuff out.
Yeah. So
that's how you do that's how you do a sponsor roll, by messing yourself all the way up through.
Listen, I was like totally trying to fix something that I had going on, and so I was fixing that and then wasn't paying attention. But today we're talking about a new tier list. Maybe we can create our own tier list that, you know, might become meta, as they say. Maybe it's meta. Dixie Mech, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 7 months, which I know we talked about this a little bit. If you didn't know, Friday we are doing our first episode of the Mech Madness 2020 recap, so be sure to come back and hang out with us on Friday, same time, 8 p.m. Central. It's gonna be a good time. And then Mike Clicks, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 4 months, man. We're getting up there. Almost.
We are, man. We're getting close to a year. So when we celebrate our year, it's not going to be a year on Twitch. It'll be a year of just Mechs on Deck content. But we plan on doing a fun celebration in April, which is coming up. So let's get some mail. Do you have mail?
I have mail. I have a mail and a preview of what I'm building tomorrow. So you want to go first?
We'll let you go first this time.
Oh, okay. I'll go first. All right. So first up, I took a trip over down to Chewy's house this past weekend. Picked up some things. So these were some mails that he has shared previously, but I'm going to share it again because I'm excited. So I've got my own lilac tactiles, some mauve linears, and then finally picked up some of my Duroc stabilizers, the purple ones. Very excited to use these. Very excited to get all of this lubed and possibly filmed. I might be picking up some films soon and get it into a board. I think I have a second plate for my OSA, so I'm thinking about using the mauves for that, so I can have a tactile and a linear build, kind of switch between the two. And then this was something that I think, how long have you had this shirt for me? For a while.
Yes.
A Dixie Mech shirt, the Thok HHKB Dixie Mech
it's
shirt.
Still folded.
It is still folded. I'm not gonna lie, it had been sitting in the bag that you gave it to me in until Saturday.
There you go.
Which was one day after I got it, so actually not that long. But and then last but not least, the board that I will be building tomorrow, which is this. It's kind of heavy to hold in just one hand. A TGR 910 CE. It is built right now. I'm actually building a second build for this. Pretty excited to be building this. Also excited to be using the plate that I will be using for this. I'm going to show it off here. It's kind of unique looking. I didn't know what it was. I totally had forgotten what it was. But this is a FR4 late for the 910. This group I ran quite a while ago, like probably about 6 months ago, I think, is when they ran this. So I'm excited to put this together, try it out, see how it sounds, see how it feels. I'll be building it with kale burgundies, which is an interesting choice, but hey, they're smooth. I lubed them. I just finished before we started streaming. It's why we were a few minutes late, but I'm excited. So be sure to check back on that tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central. Dave, Chewy,
Terracin. I believe it's like what's the word? I just had it, not custom. I don't know. Edition. It's something edition, and the word escaped me whenever I heard my name, because that's what happens with brains. So C edition. There you go. Collector's Chonky edition.
Sounds good. We'll go with Chonky edition because it's a heavy 65%.
It's dense. I messed with it for like 5 minutes, but the springs, too light. The layout, complete garbage. So anyway, but yeah, I've got some cool stuff to show off as well. I am. So one real quick, shout out to our buddy Willio. He made this really cool, like 3D printed M. So I don't know if he plans on like making something. It's a good coaster. You might need like some get some bump-ons on the bottom, make a nice little coaster. So it's pretty cool. $500. I am selling this
coaster.
I am now selling this for $500. No, but it was a cool little gift. Definitely shout out to Willio. So yeah, I recently got a large update to a lot of stuff. If you can see, the mad scientist is dead. I've been having audio issues for however long Mechs on Deck has been around. And, so I recently got a new mic, the RE20, the EV or Electro Voice RE20 for those who are curious. I got the Go XLR Mini, which I can't really show because my overhead camera, that's something that I was able to get. We got new cameras. It's not really new to me, but it's the same thing. And then I got this that you see that I actually had on last Wednesday's stream, was a new lens. So some really awesome stuff. Thank you to our sponsors and our supporters that we were able to do the awesome upgrades. So I'm really excited. A lot of this stuff. The only other real thing I got, like not mail, but I picked up an IKEA Alex shelf. So I'm just like way more organized. I'm very excited to build something next week. So
yeah, I forgot to say I also got a new lens for my second build camera that I got last week, and I'm excited to use it. You'll see it tomorrow in action. It's pretty freaking crazy lens. So
I'm excited. I'm really excited for tomorrow's stream. We wanted to take the next big step, and we looked at what are the problems. And well, one of the biggest problems that we got all the time was that my audio was jacked up, and so that was something that we're like, all right, well, let's get this fixed. I'm really glad that I was able to get this fixed. So hopefully, if it felt like I was ignoring you the last 3 weeks, it's because I knew we were doing this. So.
Yeah.
Extra crispy.
All right. We are back.
We're back.
Back on the main screen.
All right. Well, I forgot to show off my one funny thing because I can go, what the?
Oh. I mean, that is a very cool part about
it's the best part, obviously. I don't care that people can hear me. Now I can just bleep myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Let's get into it. New tier list. So I talked about this a while back, a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago. And it was actually funny. I was watching my dogs use the restroom and I had an epiphany. That I was like, you know what? we see all these tier lists of like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm like, no, that's too many. And I'm sorry, the new mount. If I hit it, my apologies. Getting used to it. For keyboards, for boards, caps, make your own. It's to me that's more by brand. So boards obviously have a lot more value. Well, some boards have a lot more value than caps, but there's a lot more distinguishing differences in boards. And so, we used to talk about how there's kind of like the S tier and the A tier and B tier and C tier. And it's like, well, we're starting to get, there's a few different things happening. We're starting to get better boards across the board, which is awesome. Just having that added, people are starting to grow together. Taking one from Quakems, we're starting to see more and more people try harder and accept less, nothing less than perfect or as close to perfect as possible. And so, I've kind of noticed that I'm like, well, we don't need these there's not a big difference between a lot of these boards, especially some of these higher end boards and some of these lower end boards. And so why don't you go through the tier list that we came up with?
Yeah, so just kind of break it down in terms of like the actual, so a lot of people do like E, like, or S, I guess S through E tier. So like you start with S and then you go down. This one is a little bit different. So we have custom keyboard, which is kind of like the starting point, high-end custom keyboard. And then one that we've seen a lot of movement in, and I think a lot of people are trying to make their way into, and that is the luxury custom keyboard kind of tier.
And how I was talking with kind of fleshing this whole idea out with Drifting Bunnies earlier today. So shout out to Drifting Bunnies. It's kind of a bell curve now. So that's not to say that, there are definitely going to be some boards on this list that kind of, it's like, well, at the high end there might be some differences, but at the end of the day, when you compare it to this versus this, there's such a huge discrepancy in either way that is it really that much more far off from something else? And so I would say where primarily where a lot of these boards sit are right in the middle. Which is you've got your TX60s, you've got your Ramas, you've got some of these nicer, we're not trying to go off of prices too much because we'll talk about branding in a little bit. But we have a lot of these boards that are kind of fitting in the same gap of like, is it that much nicer? Is it that much worse? And I think you can kind of wrap it up to, well, what does the board offer? We talked about this with Jay. This was actually like our 4th episode on YouTube about what does the board offer? What features, what new design elements are in there? And what's kind of setting it apart from everything else? Or is this just another board? And I think that's what we're starting to see a lot of different ideas. That's like, okay, well, how can I really change what a keyboard is?
Yeah, and I think especially, with what we talked about last week of the things where it's like adding features, adding changes to your design, adding things that you can make adjustments to that are on the smaller, the minute things is what takes you from a high end to maybe a luxury brand. Like if you think in terms of like everything else, those little minute changes, those small things, like in the grand scheme of things, it may not matter a ton, right? Like if you think about in cars, like a car that's put together by hand, right? Well, that doesn't sound like it'd be better than a robot putting it together. Like processing that doesn't sound like it'd be that big of a deal. But that's what makes it more luxury. That's what makes it better. That's what makes it worth more, right? There's more time spent into it. So there's a lot of things like that we're seeing. Things like the Iron 165 where they're putting in additional time doing things to add features to it. Granted, we don't know the final craftsmanship of that. We don't know if it'll necessarily hit that luxury custom keyboard yet because we don't have the final product, but things like that can make you go from a high end to a luxury.
Mm-hmm. And so in a lot of that also, some of you don't just pop in and make a luxury keyboard. The only one that I would say is the closest to it would be Satisfaction 75, and that's kind of an anomaly. I think that board's very hype right now. Nothing against it. It's a solid looking board. I haven't personally used one yet, but I think there's a lot of hype behind that board right now. With seeing a lot of these high prices. But that's kind of one board that I could see. Okay, well, what's it? It's got the rotary encoder. It's got the screen. So it's got these new features that people really like. But outside of that, a lot of these boards, they kind of had to work their way up, and they also had to have other things pop in. So Keycolt didn't start on top. Keycolt got to where they were from hard work and repetition. And TGR got to where they were from hard work and repetition and innovation. And I mean, and innovation for Keycolt as well. So that's why when you grab a number 2 versus say something like the KBD 8X Mark II, both solid boards. But just from looking at it, you'll see it. That looks more put together. That looks cleaner. That someone spent more time on that, and especially if you open it all up, because opening that thing up is like a freaking jigsaw puzzle. And so that's why you can kind of, there are some things that it's like that's why it's up there. Other reasons that things are kind of in the top tier list is the brand recognition, which has a lot to do with most things that you buy. But brand recognition of, I know if I buy something from here, I'm going to expect the top.
Yeah, because if you look at a brand like let's talk about one that might teeter, right? It's very close. Like a brand like Rama, right? They check the boxes of a luxury brand in a lot of ways with the brand recognition, the branding overall, the packaging, the unboxing experience that you get, the seller experience, buyer experience, and the fact of it's all done through them. It's easy. Their system is good. They have a long history of, putting out information as much as possible, making sure things stay on track. It checks a lot of those boxes for what you consider luxury, but it's held back a little bit by the keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Sequence 1 Rama M60A had its problems.
Yeah. And some of it is just, it's held back by the design, right? Like you look at something like, maybe you could say the Tank Edition Koyu is more, could be considered a luxury. Just because it's a little bit nicer. The craftsmanship is amazing on them. It's full PVD brass, which is something that you don't see really ever. But it does have issues. I don't know if issues is necessarily the good word.
I mean, I'd say it has things that you would expect. You wouldn't have these problems if you knew you were buying this luxury item. When you buy a Keycolt, switches aren't going to have wobble in the plate.
Right.
That everything's going to fit nice and neat. I know the M60, sometimes the bottom, and this is the first one. I haven't really gotten my hands on a Sequence 2 yet. I'm sure they've fixed. I mean, the biggest complaints that we have, the board sounds rough, and that's integrated plate. I think a lot of people just didn't realize how an integrated plate sounds. It's way different than like a normal either top mount or tray mount. So I think that kind of inherently changes things. And then if you look at, to me, another thing that really holds Rama back is Rama's selecting the layout for you. You don't really get to select the layout. And that's something that's like, that's why I will always kind of go, well, it's Rama. Like he makes what he makes, and that's great. People love it, and that's awesome. Good job, well done. But it starts taking the custom out of custom mechanical keyboards.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
and
start limiting a lot of things.
And in talking about limiting, there's also an aspect of what could be considered luxury is the limitation of it, right? A Rama board is not limited really in any way. They're open buys. You don't have to enter a raffle. There's no time limit you need to hit in order to get one. You could buy the same board you can in 0.001 seconds after the group buy starts and a second before it ends, which is a month later. You can get the same thing from day one to the last day. And I think that's also one of those things that, especially at this moment in time in the community, might play into it not being as luxury as something like a Key Cult or a TGR or some of these other boards, like the Vern, right? Like that's a fantastic board. But lucky's not the same thing as luxury. There's also an aspect of something being luxury by it being limited. A limitation on something and making it having a low production value makes it more limited.
Well, that and knowing knowing that you are one of a handful of people that have this, that's something that means a lot to a lot of people. And I don't want to say I'm trashing Rama. Rama's a solid company. They put out great boards. What Rama's doing is probably better than what most people are. He does an amazing job. Just because I feel like we've been shitting on Rama, I don't want to come across as that.
No, we're not. To be fair, we were talking about teetering. It's teetering.
Yeah, his teetering. We're trying to say this is why Rama is not 100% luxury. There are a lot of things that Rama can do. He's a bigger company. He's got a bigger team. And so Rama is able to do a lot more. But in doing so much more, you do have to sacrifice some things. And whether or not, that's why he's kind of, to me, Rama's kind of the face of high-end custom keyboards. But Apple's not the face of high-end custom computers. Apple's just the face of high-end computers. And I will always make that Rama Apple analogy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect analogy. Like, it's not, is Apple the best? No, they're not. The stuff that they use in their computers, the components, other than maybe the Mac Pro, which is very expensive and very niche market, is outdated. I see a lot of people talking about how lucky isn't the same as luxury, limited isn't the same as luxury either. Yes, I agree, but that it does not have to be limited to be luxury. But I feel like at this point in time in the community, the overall community's view on whether or not something is luxury or is considered high tier is dependent a lot on the aftermarket price. And when you have a board like a Key Cult that sells for 3 to 4 times what it sold for retail, that is completely different than something that sells for maybe like 1.5 times, right? Like that could be considered way more of a luxury item if it is valued that much higher than its retail price. That is a luxury item. There in the world of cars, in the world of clothing, the only things that sell for significant value above what they sell for at retail price are things that are considered luxury.
So, and then, by the way, just want to respond. Is it Sizzy? Feel free to argue as much as you want.
Yeah. I mean,
we love arguing. We will never. You're not taking personal shots. You're having an argument or having a discussion. That's what we're here for. We want to have an open discussion about this stuff, because Panda Panda Salt. I assume it's Panda Slut, but it's Panda Salt. I don't know. I could be wrong.
If it was
I mean,
Panda
we are
Slut,
kind of.
it would be
I know
S1UT.
it could be, but so, but
Suit.
Oh, dude,
Get your mind out of the
away,
gutter.
Whatever,
Get your mind out of the gutter.
I'm about those pandas. Anyway, Panda Suit. What I agree. Yes, every keyboard that we have that's above a Razer, like, or a Logitech, yeah, we're just talking about the difference between a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. Like, you're 100% right on that. But kind of ignore that because we're talking about, this hobby. Obviously, everything's extreme luxury, but the other thing that I want to mention about Rama is Rama's not really reinventing the wheel on these things. The U80 is the first time we've seen something where it's like, oh, we've got the mute plate. So we're trying to me, that's a direct response to people saying, I don't like the way the M60A sounds. And so while that's being innovative, I think that's also just being reactionary to response. So, but that's, if you look at a Rama, I can take an HHKB integrated plate tofu and a Rama M60A, and there's going to be a pretty much similar feel and sound, because a slightly different sound because the case is just going to be a different size. But what makes them different from the tofu versus what makes it different from Rama makes it a high end versus that. But the difference between a Rama and the difference between a lot of the stuff you see like coming from Keycolt is astounding. It's a much different concept. So
yeah.
But I guess moving off of Rama, just because there are a lot of other things to talk about. I want to talk about TGR, because TGR is this weird spot. Because I opened up, I was very curious. I opened up the 910 and I just wanted to see how it was built. And it feels very, it like in your hands, you're like, this is a solid piece of metal. This is amazing. Like this, excuse me. This is a very like high-end product. Like, someone definitely spent the time. To me, with TGR, because a lot of it kind of is the name. The 910 is a top-mounted keyboard. There's really not much to it other than the fact that the QC for the anodizing is fantastic. The board, like, it just feels really good. The ano and the finish is just amazing. Like, you don't have that duck eagle. Is it eagle or no? What's the duck board that's sandpaper?
All of them.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
almost a ton of them. A lot of them have the issue of, not the issue, because I think they came out and said that that's how they like it. I think that's what they said, but
I mean, regardless. So, but the are we talking 10 strong? Are you talking about Are you talking about the 910s?
Yeah, he's talking about the 910s. I think.
Okay, so
she built
this one at least
she built a VKC.
Okay. And so, but what TGR is doing, I mean, have you seen an Alice? Have you seen what the Alice did the community? It put everybody on this, like, oh, I got to build one now, especially since he released it. The TGR Alice, to me, is probably the most luxury keyboard there is, because it's the first of something that really shaped the hobby and really changed it. And they did it really well. And so that's something where it's like, well, let's look at the Alice. It's kind of just a top mounted keyboard. But the design was so innovative that it really blew the doors open for how you can change a keyboard. But with how it goes, like, some of these boards, if you're getting a 910, or if you're the CE, I think just came out, like, you're going to get a very, very, very well made. But TGR just has me on this weird kind of line. Well, it's like Rama's right here, reaching just about, getting very, very close to into the luxury, where TGR is like hanging for life. So yeah, I think a lot of that's being carried by him.
Yeah, I think if you look at TGR, we're talking about brands like, I think we've said before, or I've said before, that a TKL is like a suit. It's like a nice suit, right? It's classic. It always looks good. You can't really change it. Also, yes, I know EM7 is technically the original of that layout, but that board is disgusting looking. Sorry if you like that board. The EM7 is pretty gross looking, in my opinion. Also, PMSing Chicken, thank you for the 1,000 bits and getting the 200 bonus bits. Thank you. Appreciate it. So what I was saying, DKLs are like suits, right? Looks good. The Jane is like a classy, well put together, well fitting tuxedo. The Jane, both the original, the V2, and presumably probably the one that's coming out right now that are shipping soon. I think some have shipped. It looks great. No matter what you put on it, no matter what it is, but it is not venturing out. It is just classic. It's just classic. Mm-hmm. Whereas you look at something, I'm going to move on to what we would obviously consider probably the other luxury or one of the other luxury custom keyboards. The Key Cult. I think a Key Cult is going to be more of your suit that's a little trendier, right? Like it's going to be what's on the red carpet, if that makes sense. It's going to be the new thing. Maybe it's a fancy color. Maybe it's got this fancy new feature.
It's a houndstooth blazer.
Yeah, you know, it's wearing that bold color of socks. Maybe the pants are a little bit short, so it shows off some ankle, you know? And maybe it's the legs are a little bit more fitted, a little bit more tighter. That's what I would say the Key Cult number 1 and number 2 is. Especially the number 2. The number 2 like is that thing is insane.
Yeah. And so that's why, you know, someone asked, who is it? Beadlocks asks, if Key Cult did not exist, who in the hobby do you feel right now is the highest TGR? Because of the Alice carried them to the TGR. But the TGR, I'd say we'd probably be having this conversation, but with TGR and Rama.
Yeah, I think
because what Key Cult did with the whole experience of changing it from, okay, here's a keyboard in a box to like, you're getting this amazing box, this amazing like open box experience. You're getting all this custom, you know, handwritten stuff where it's like, oh, this is what I'm paying for. You know, Kepler, there's another one, which we haven't talked about once yet, but we'll get to in just a moment.
Yeah, because I think there's others like that could go in there, especially some that we haven't necessarily seen yet. Like the Bauer that's shipping now, at least the first couple. What was the other one?
The Satisfaction.
Well, the Satisfaction, but I don't know if that necessarily. I feel like we need more time. That's the other thing. Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a waiting period because something like the Satisfaction, you know, it's been out for a couple months. Fantastic board. Everyone that I've talked to that has one loves it. I haven't heard anything like terrible about it, except for the plate can be really, really tight. Other than that, I haven't heard any bad things, but I think we need some time for the market to kind of settle on it, to really kind of see where it sits from a standpoint. But I definitely think that is a contender.
And so one thing that I kind of want to get into, we're starting this private buy and one-off buy is kind of throwing everything. So I wrote down a lot of different companies on this little spreadsheet. It's just Key Cult, TGR, Rama, TX Keyboards, Smith and Rune, which I think is going to be, in my opinion, probably the next step into the luxury keyboards with this plate redesign and this just overall how they handle it. I'm curious to see how it's boxed. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But I think they're the next person to kind of threaten that, like, we're a luxury keyboard. Mechanist, KBD fans, lots of one-off designers. Blind Assassin kind of has his hand 10 different things. Canon keys. So all these places can kind of fit in different spots. But what we're seeing now and seeing a lot of is boards are being designed and sold as like private buys. We talked about that last week, where it's like these private buys are awesome. And what's the difference between a 20 run private buy that's just as luxurious and just as innovative? And what if they took something and then changed it, made it its own thing and made it better? And then is the finish as nice, as all that stuff is nice as some of these high end boards? And the answer is yes. Like some of these boards are just as nice. This is where that branding comes in, screws everything up, because Satisfaction 75 is a very nice board. And people are kind of going, oh my God, the Satisfaction 75 tried to trade a key cult for it and did or whatever. And I'm like, I mean, first off, Mr. Keeb said it himself. What you value your own stuff is up to you. That's not set by the market. And two, what if that board is as good? You know, if you put them side by side and these are both amazing boards. I'm like, well, let's take away prices. Do you think that you would need to spend extra money on something versus the other? You know, that's up to that person to decide.
Yeah, because how much is that branding worth, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know Pluto brought up all the different clones of the Alice, right? All the different boards that are effectively using the files that were released by TGR and making a new board out of it. Can those be considered luxury custom keyboards? I would say they can, depending on how far they departure from the initial design. Like I said this when I built it, the initial, the prototype of the Tengu, right? That is a big change overall from a design standpoint, the aesthetics of it, the looks of it. It looks completely different. You know, if you talk about how the Alice is a copy of the EM7, well, what did the Alice change significantly from the EM7? The way it looks. Well, the Tengu went directly and changed a significant portion of that board, and the mounting style is completely different.
So also I'm looking at the EM7 right now. Maybe the EM7 and the Alice technically have different lines. The EM7 has a numpad. So while yes, the spacing, and it also has 2 extra keys on the right side. So while the spacing and where kind of, you know, where your hands rest from the home row is pretty much the exact same, I would say
numpad?
Not numpad, sorry, arrow keys.
Arrow keys. Okay.
My apologies. I think that the EM7, while it looks great, the TGR took that and was like, I'm going to do this better. Like, and they made it look cleaner. Because the EM7, while I'm sure it's great to type on, does not look as clean as. That is my personal opinion, but
yeah,
sorry, not.
I mean, the EM7, like I said, it's ugly in my opinion. Comparatively to the Alice, right? The Alice is a much more aesthetically pleasing of a board. So yes, and then Starstone brings up a good point of the unboxing experience, right? Something like the Bauer that has custom packaging, Key Cult. They spent a lot of time, a lot of money. If you go back and you watch our Key Cult interview where we talk to those guys, we talk to Jorge and Zach, and we talk about how they spent all this time and money developing their packaging so they could create a brand identity. Does that put that board much higher? Whereas just shipping something in the phone that you get from the manufacturer and just saying, oh, it's good. It's an interesting thought. That's as we get into a time where the community is more commercialized, things are going to be, orders are going to go up. There's going to be more people. There's going to be more things to get into as buyers. There's going to be more options out there. There's going to be more competition between these higher end brands, especially. Things like that are going to make it make the difference for some people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what I'm kind of expecting moving forward is if I do get some a very nice keyboard that's outside of a private buy. I'm not expecting anything. I expect this to get basically wrapped in 100 sheets of bubble wrap and just thrown at me. Like it's a private buy. I'm not expecting, unless it was a private buy from a company. But if I know it's just some dude, if it's just some dude sitting in his house or his apartment or garage that's just like kind of throwing stuff together, and it's like it was never put on Geek Hack. It was like, hey, I'm just doing this because I want this. I'm not expecting anything nice from it. But getting the last board that I got that was not a private buy was the Austin, and perfectly acceptable. Came in a white box, had some stickers on it that was labeled, hey, Drift Mechanics. The box custom cut foam, little areas. I was confused because the PCB is like under everything, and I just thought I didn't get one. So that was funny. And even the PCB had a nice little cutout. The Fiel, that was another great boxing experience. So I kind of expect, if I'm spending a bunch of money, I'm like, well, I'm kind of expecting at least something now. It's you kind of have that like moment where it's you're getting something nice and you don't even have to open the box. Like that adds to it. That definitely adds. That's also a reason. That's also a reason if you want to know why Mechanisk is able to keep doing things and why Keycult's able to keep doing things, those are the things that get people to go.
Right.
Those are the things that people remember where, oh, okay. Where it's like, if you get a board and you're like, this is a great board, but it just came in, rolled up bubble wrap, then it's like, okay, well, I didn't care about that. But it's like, that doesn't show me that person went 110% the extra. Once again, I'm excluding private buys because a lot of that's not really about to make money as much as it is I want something made.
So I have a question here, and Starstone brings this up. Does TGR get a pass because of its mystique and its, I guess, history in the community? Because that's a board that it's still a Google form, right? Like, kind of like it's first come, first serve, 100%. It's pretty much done mainly on Geek Hack, and there's no real packaging experience to be heard of with it. It's not a lot on bells and whistles, but it is insanely high regarded.
Yeah, I'd be expecting more because that those boards are expensive. Now, I will say TGRs have a higher mark. TGRs are cheaper in group buy, like the Jane CE was significantly cheaper than Keycult number. So not to say, it's not to say that one was, obviously there are different aspects of how something is priced. And I have no idea how much it actually costs to make versus how much they're making on it. But that there's probably a couple extra bucks in there for Keycult to give you a nice box and nice foam and a whole extra mile. Maybe TGR is making a great board, save as much money as possible and save the customer as much money as possible. And that's the only way I could think of it as a pass. But now that I had a good unboxing experience from the KBD 8X Mark. So like if that's kind of, I'm like, if a KBD fans can do it, anybody should be able to do it.
Yeah, true. And I think that's what we're seeing is these vendors, right? Like, I don't think necessarily like TGR specifically, I don't think they necessarily 100% asked to be right in the number 1, number 2, like the top 5 slots of boards of brands, right? Like, they didn't necessarily, that might be what they sent out. I haven't talked to TGR about this, but I'm assuming that they just wanted to make great boards, right? Like, they didn't go out to try to create this big brand, this big experience the way that maybe like Dixie is with Bauer and Keycult is with their boards and their offerings, right? Like they've been very open about making sure that their entire brand and everything that they produce has the same feel, the same looks to it. Like they are going for this high end. They want to be considered a high end manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. And what I think it's kind of interesting because, not to give away trade secret, custom boxes are not like, they're not cheap, but they're not like crazy expensive.
No.
So
the design,
all that design, now designing and artwork, all that, but if you're going for at least like a nice box and maybe just like if you have a logo already, TGR could get a nice box for $15 a person. And I'm like, well, I guess the question there is, would you pay $15 extra for how many people? That's actually almost want to run a poll of that. How many people would spend an extra $20 for a very nice box versus a cardboard box with very custom packaging versus acceptable in shipment?
Yeah, and I think that custom packaging might be underrated by some people who are like, oh well, I just throw it away. This is like,
don't throw away your boxes.
This is custom foam. Like if you think about it, right? Most boards are shipped from their factory in like a sandwich of foam from wherever they're manufactured, the actual case being cut and all that, right? It's not, there's wiggle room in there. Things can move around. Things could get damaged. If you ship it out just in that, it'll probably be okay. You put some bubble wrap in there, it'll be fine, right? But having a really nice, super dense, custom cut foam specifically for your board is a whole nother level, right? Like it's going to 100% protect it. Nothing's going to get in there and mess it up. It's not going to rattle around. It's going to have a better aesthetic. It's going to be a great way to transport the board if you don't have a case. It has a lot of other uses. So one, don't throw it away. And then I noticed people talking about how if things become more of an industry, it's going to be harder to get into. We are actually seeing the inverse of that, right? Like you're getting better boards at the low end. You're getting better things. Like look at the Polaris. Look at what KBD Fans is doing. I can't remember the name of that TKL or what. Was it a TKL or was it 75? I think it's 75. The Bella
75.
The Bella. Look at what they're doing. The KBD 8X Mark II, right? You're getting fantastic offerings at a low price. Way better than you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's funny because we're talking about this tier list, right? The custom keyboard, high end, custom keyboard, luxury, right? Custom keyboard is relatively small, right? Like there's only a few manufacturers that sit in there that we would consider kind of like it's okay. There's a lot.
They're made to be just like,
Right. There's a lot that sit in the high end. There's a ton. That's by far the biggest of the bell curve. And then luxury is, again, a small few, right?
And you're looking at like, let's fast forward 6 months. Let's say that the Iron 165 is all that it's made out to be. Let's say, I think the Evolve will take a lot longer. Say, 1 or 2 more boards. There can be boards that are considered luxury, like the Keycult number 1 versus number 2. That's already a huge difference. The number 2 is a very different design. He spent a lot of time on that. But I do want to say one thing, and Rick is correct. I will take a TX bag or something along those lines over any unboxing ever. I don't care if my bag is shipped in a thin piece of cardboard. A nice case, to me, trumps everything. Because you've now given me something. And that, like the Pelican cases that we're starting to see, I'm like, you've shown me more than anything that you want to protect your product and not while I'm not saying anything against Key Cult, they make amazing boxes, and it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing them selling Pelican cases. But that tells me a lot. And if it's fitted correct with the case, but some of these cases are great, and I have an Apache case that Osiris has right now that I don't know if you've opened it.
I have. It's right next to me.
Opened it up at all. And heavy as shit, but
This one.
Yes, I have that. And so it's quite heavy, but it protects everything, and I know it's going to be protected. So that's a lot more money than obviously a box. So it's
you can buy.
You're spending that much more. Heck yeah!
You could buy Pelican cases from mechsondeck.dixiemech.com.
Look at that.
He does have them. He's got a couple in stock, so check him out. If you want to get something to hold a couple boards, check him out. But no, I think that's a big thing we've been seeing, right? Like, because if you think about it, that takes a purchase that you probably were going to make. Like, if you are purchasing a board that's $500-$600 plus caps, switches, so you're talking about like an $800 investment, probably more. On top of the time commitment to it, like, let's be real here. Even lubing switches, right? Like, that's a couple hours. The build's a couple hours. You're talking about 5-6 hour endeavor overall with everything.
And wait times.
Like, you've invested a lot of your life into this, right? A significant portion into this one board. A case for it makes a lot of sense, right?
Probably a good idea.
Especially if you're going to meetups, especially if you want to take it and show your friends. You want to try to get your friends into the community, your friends who are in the community. You want to flex a little bit. You want to show off. Everyone wants to show off their board. Whether or not you want to like flex, doesn't matter. You probably want to show it off. You want people to try it. I brought my OSA over to Chewy's house the other day just because I wanted him to play with it for 5 seconds.
Just to flex that lube switch.
But
I'm sorry. I have to use the restroom because I've been drinking water like crazy. So
wow.
Do we want to go right back real quick? My apologies.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Take a quick pee break. My apologies. We'll be right back.
What is up, everyone? We are back. Thank you for talking amongst yourselves while Chewy urinated and I got more water.
I drank a bunch of sweet tea this morning. Splenda sweet tea because
Splenda sweet tea.
Well, it's just unsweetened tea. I mean, the bathroom's like 9 steps that way.
It's literally like right outside the door, which the door doesn't close. So
like, hold on, I can actually like kind of show up. It's not that small. Hold on, let me. Sorry, I'm telling my wife not to like just show up randomly. We can whoop. Let's turn this. The bathroom's literally like right there, but it's a small room. So little showing off the Chewy layer.
The dungeon
where I do play Dungeons and Dragons.
Very true. That you do.
So
I do not.
It's a tiny room. I mean, you've seen it if you were there for the stream. You saw that it's literally right there. So very very quick access. But my apologies. Anyway, enough about me going to the back. Back to keyboards.
So, what do you think about the fact that do you think that these designers can obviously flow between these, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you talk about like Canon keys. That's something that might be in all three, right?
Yeah. He's got his hands.
He's got his hands everywhere. He's got the lowest of the low, and I don't mean this by it's like terrible, but like the practice 60.
Yeah.
You know? Like
it's not bad. It's just like, yep.
Yeah, it's like
that's the board.
You're like you know what you're getting yourself into, you know? Like that's the point of it. And then all the way up to like a Satisfaction 75, which may very well be his first foray into the luxury stratosphere. I'm getting.
I like that word.
Oof.
The luxury stratosphere.
And we're gonna limit that. I know that Ten Strong brought up some that he didn't necessarily design. I want to give the classification of the tier to the designer, not necessarily to the runner. So like he didn't design the TMO 50 V2, right? Like we can't give him the 100% credit for that.
Yeah. I think overall, I think that a couple things really just fuck up everything, which is private buys. I mean, we've talked about it. We've already been talking about it, but like there are boards that I have that I'm like, this is nicer than everything else that I own. The quality, the sound, the feel, the everything. One of the best sounding and feeling boards that I own right now. And okay, I am impartial because it has Zycos on it, but I throw something else on there to prove my point. Is my Fiel, which is a tray mount board.
Yeah, which is not a board that jumps off the paper in quality from the spec sheet.
Like when you're looking at what it is, tray mount board, it's got 2 removable screws, which is game changer. Like right from right there. It's got great anodization and it looks beautiful. And it's one of the best feeling and sounding boards that I own. And so that's something where I'm like, okay, well, what even is a luxury, you know? And I don't own a Keycolt. Hopefully, I will be able to own one soon. But I don't own one, but I've got an Austin, another very good, high quality keyboard. And some of these boards, I'm like, I don't know what the difference between the Keycolt is going to have to be, and that and the Fiel and the Austin and all that. Like, that's where you start kind of tearing at the fabric of like what makes it a luxury experience, and things change too. So like right now, to me, I think something that makes a board luxury right now is gas. Everyone's like gaskets and brass. Those are the two, for those who care about it, the brass. Those are the two things that like make it like weight equals premium. Throw some gaskets in there, make everything, as much of everything as brass as possible, and boom, you've got yourself a high-end keyboard. And so, but that can change. You know, maybe rotary encoders are the future.
And we're seeing flickers of that changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially with the brass. We've seen tons of different plate materials, you know, a one-off that would be highly regarded by a lot of the people who own it. Now it's a pain in the butt to put together, but it's pretty cool looking. The JO1, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's necessarily a luxury custom keyboard, just because it really is a prototype and it has its issues. But I think the idea of it, if it was fleshed out and run as a full buy, so maybe something like the JO2, could be a custom keyboard. I think, sorry, I read chat and it makes me lose my train of thought. that had carbon fiber plate, right? Still had gaskets, still had ton of brass, absolutely heavy, insanely heavy, weighed as much as a Kepler, right? We're seeing changes. Maybe brass doesn't have to be the brass doesn't have to be the end all be all,
the top tier.
Yeah.
So and that's what, you know, in this tier list, that what I'm saying, and now this tier list, what I'm saying is this is like this is kind of my personal, and I've shared this with Eric and we kind of just agree on, okay, well, that's what this tier list does, is to me, is it puts most boards on an even playing field. Is that, you know, turning your minus ones and twos to your minus ones and minus twos and plus ones and plus twos to, like, you know, I've tried devising them to grading by, it's borderline impossible, because there are some boards that are so awesome that they get all these pluses, and then there are other boards that they're great at what they do, and it's exactly what I wanted, kind of like the Fiel. The Fiel is really, really good at doing like a few things, but it does it perfectly. But because it doesn't have 4 or 5 different things, there's less of that number can go up, and now I can't judge. So it's kind of, a lot of these boards are so good that, you know, this tier list should put a lot of these on the same playing field.
Right. And then Dixie brought up a good point of, like, you have to judge them equally, but at the same time, there's a lot of factors at play, right? Like, you may not like the way a board sounds, right? You may think that the Jane V2 sounds better than the CE, or a specific variation of the TGR 910 sounds terrible, and that should bring that entire board down. But you cannot deny the community as a whole's thoughts on it, right? Like, the mystique and brands can make mistakes, right? But that doesn't make it not a high-end product, if that makes sense. Perfect example. When we worked at Guitar Center, there was one of the nicest guitars that I've ever played was a guitar that had been in the store for 4 years. It was a color called Grandma Hannon's Pink. It was a PRS 22, I think.
Yeah.
It was a PRS 22. And ugliest guitar. And it had a big old dent in the front. But it played amazing. It felt amazing. Still an extremely high-end board. Absolutely terrible looking. Or not board. High-end guitar. Absolutely terrible looking. Cost $2,700. But it sat. Brands can make mistakes with certain things. It doesn't make it less high-end, if that makes sense. Now, that's obviously limited to certain things, right? If a brand comes out with a board, like if Keycult tomorrow released a board that just was absolutely terrible, like in a specific way, like that was something other than maybe like aesthetics, like if it really affected the typing feel, if it affected something in a very, very negative way, because a board can sound bad and feel great. I think you can get a pass. You can still remain in a luxury tier and have something wrong. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfect.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard to judge boards. It's difficult. Where do you begin? You know, yes, things are weighted differently, but you know what, and then what version of said board, you know, a polycarbonate Leaf 60 is going to feel and sound different than a brass Leaf 60. And is one better? You know, I guess what I can say to you all is make your own list, make your own decisions, because while we're just trying to kind of give our thoughts on this tier list, make your own decisions, because you might think that the TGR Alice is just like, who cares? I don't like that layout. It doesn't have a numpad, so I don't care. I only like boards with numpads. It's totally fine. That's your checklist. That's your weighted checklist of boards. On my like personal rankings of like boards that I love, 65% just don't make that cut. I can appreciate a lot of that stuff, but I'm like never gonna buy it because it's not something that I want. So that's just something to think about, of just like, if you can agree or disagree with our list as much as, just know that a lot of these boards, you can't blanket judge a lot of these boards because they're just so different that, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about metal rig with very expensive plastic. Excuse me, but do what you can to kind of try and look at them as objectively as possible, because it's hard to compare a lot of different things. We talked about this in our layout. You can't compare like you can't compare like the Rama U80 VL. They're just different boards, and in its entirety, in the layout, and the mounting system, they're just completely different boards. It's hard to compare. You can't say one is objectively better than the other. It could just be a preference.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've talked a lot about luxury and what makes something luxury, or what is in luxury. I'm going to reiterate, we made this to 3 to make it easier to put things into, right? Like, luxury is obviously going to be very few products. There's going to be very few products that come out. People are like, oh my gosh, wow. And then high end is insanely wide. High end is insanely wide, and you can place, in terms of high end, you can place things wherever you want, right? Like, that's up to you. And then custom, again, is small. Custom is like your KBD fans. That custom's slowly getting up there. So, and yes, I do agree, Jax. We do need a board that is plastic, with better plastic. Granted, Sirius is pretty dang good, but I definitely wouldn't put it up in luxury. The Sirius is pretty awesome. And, I do know this really cute guy that's working on a plastic board. His name might be Jax. I don't know. Your mic's cut out. Your mic is off. Nope.
Your boy
there
hit
you go.
push to talk.
Don't. That's why you just need to not have push to talk.
Well, I didn't. I guess I had switched. Oh, I know how I switched it. Never mind. Anyway, my apologies. Don't worry. New audio stuff. Still gonna fuck it up some.
Hey, new mic sounds great. You sound amazing.
Thank you.
It happens. Polycarb
Austin. It is overrated.
I was gonna say it's not overrated.
Oompa Loompa Baka quarter 3, quarter 4. Let me know.
2,000 units, dude.
2,000 units. All right, dude. Hit me up. Let's do this. Knock it out. So real quick, if you guys have any questions for us, any more comments on tonight's topic, please at Mechs on Decas in the chat, and we'll happily answer them. Shout for this week. I haven't updated in Discord yet. We had a small what's the word I'm looking for? Scheduling issue with Zap. We were gonna have Zap come on, talk about cables. He's been very busy. He's been doing a lot of stuff recently. I don't know if you've noticed, he's been releasing a lot of really cool stuff. He's a busy man. So we actually have I Am Me, You Are You coming on. We're going to talk about keyboards and streaming. Obviously, he's another great streamer. If you've been in this channel before, you've probably either heard of him or we've probably rated him at some point. As well as then that's Wednesday, and then tomorrow. Before that, tomorrow Cyrus will be building the 910 by TGR
Yeet.
with a nice yeet bag.
Yeah, building a
Oompa Loompa
TGR
official now. Thank you.
TGR 910 CE. What some would consider a luxury custom keyboard. Get a load of that 910. Oof.
910 luxury units above a standard high-end keyboard.
Yeah. No, and then come back Friday. Don't forget about Friday. The first of the Mech Madness 2020 weekly recaps. We're going to be doing a bracket reveal of our brackets as well as a couple other things. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little bit comedic. It's going to be a good time. So definitely be sure to check us out Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And get your brackets in. Last couple days.
Even if you don't care, like I beg and ask you to care because there's a lot of great stuff on the line. Even if you don't care, even if you're just like, screw it, just fill in stuff.
Yeah.
You might win. You might just win. Who knows? 10 Strong asks, and I did read this earlier. My apologies. What do you guys think of that? The importance of high tier designers like TGR K-Colt is diminishing for some due to smaller designers providing as much more involved customer experience for a similar quality product. To clarify, does this interaction between customer and designer level difference between peace of mind? I guess, like, I guess you're saying you're getting maybe a lot more, you're getting a lot more like experience with like, oh, if you're doing like a private buy or a smaller buy, you can have a little bit more like understanding, and you have a lot more of like they're telling you how what and why they did. I do think Keycolt does a great job at that, but I don't think it's diminishing really. I think TGR is kind of, because he's on the other side of the planet and he's not trying to. I don't really think TGR and Keycolt are really trying to go at each other.
No,
neither of their numbers are going to drop because of the other.
I think so. I think it depends on what you're looking for. I think a lot of it is as well, because there is a aspect of, if you buy a private buy, no one knows what you have, right? Like you go to a meetup and unless they know about that private buy, they don't know what it is. But they see a Keycolt, they're like, oh wow. TGR, they're like, oh wow. It's the recognition, right? Like that's the other aspect of it. There's a recognition about it. It's like driving a Maserati versus a Mercedes, right? They do the same thing. They're both really good cars. Maserati has a little bit more brand recognition. Well, I guess Mercedes probably has a better brand recognition. Maybe the better option would be like Lotus, really not super high brand recognition, great cars, versus like an Aston Martin, right? Manufactured the same place. Both British cars. Aston Martin has such a high, regard, and Lotus doesn't, even though it's still a fantastic car, right? It's different things. You're looking for different things. If the interaction between the customer and designer is more important to you, you might like smaller buys. But if you're looking for something that is like a better overall experience of the entire aspect of it, like the entirety of it as a whole, right? You're going with something like a Keycolt is going to give you that. Going with something like that, like a Bauer, is going to get you that entire experience better.
And once again, we preach preference. All we ever do in this is preach preference. So, we'll have new people to this hobby only cling to the highest and most expensive boards possible. Some say that they are type beasts and not enthusiasts. I mean, who's to say who and what is an enthusiast? If you like something, are you not an enthusiast? If you're like, oh, I'm into this keyboard, I don't own one, or I want to own one soon, or I see the value in owning it, kind of makes you an enthusiast.
Well, type
I
beast
think-
and enthusiast can be the exact same thing.
Yeah. I mean, just because you're into shoes, because you like reselling shoes, if you're still an enthusiast of it, because you're just in a different aspect of the hobby. You see more of it as like dollar signs and value, as opposed to what someone else might see, which is a good quality product that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. So it's just a little column A, a little column B, you know, and for this community to grow, we need both.
Yeah.
So,
And I think Panda Suit brings up exclusive. I think more people know about exclusive than you think. That is a company that has a pretty storied history in the hobby. You know, he's not hurting us. No one's hurting to sell boards, but he's doing pretty well. Things go out really quick. There's always people lining up to buy the FE options of his board. There's always people lining up to get them. He does have good buys, but his boards typically have some underlying issue, right? Like there's issues with the spacebar sounding like poop on the E6.5. You know, like it happens. Strategy by key call number 2. Trade for 2 rare artisans. Trade artisans for 2 LZCS. Easy clap. Easy clap.
So, quick run through of our sponsors: Dixie Mech, Project Keyboards, SwitchMod.net, Type Beast, Canon Keys, and Zap Cables. Thank you guys. Check them all out. Those are the links. Lots of group buys running. My hair's doing the fun thing now. I'm just gonna leave it up. There we go. Screw it. So they're all doing some awesome group buys. Like we said earlier, be sure to check out tomorrow the 910 build. Tyson's building with a raid of 14. We're about to continue that raid somewhere else. Welcome shortly. If you have not seen us, this is Mechs on Deck, where we are just wrapping up our episode 39, talking about tier lists, talking about where you can put boards in a tier. VOD will be up shortly on our YouTube channel. If you want to check that out and subscribe here.
You're all good,
Oh no,
Tyson.
dude, it's all good, man. I think I raided Apiary once, like with 2 minutes left.
Yeah,
Or, like she was literally like in the middle of raiding someone else.
Yeah, she was in the middle of literally like hitting raid.
It was just like.
Okay, so what is the number 1 undisputed best board, Chewy? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
The Baka 60.
No. Subtle flex.
No, number 1 board. I don't know.
It's
I
hard.
need to try the Fiel with more switches. I mean,
Not your favorite board. The best
just
board
the best
overall.
board.
Because if you say Fiel, I'm gonna say, dude, come on.
No, it's the Fiel doesn't have as much design. Not that that's a bad thing, by the way. It's just the design. I don't know. That's a really good question. Like, I mean, part of me is like, well, yeah, the key code number 2. I'm like, yeah, but like, let's try for something a little different than a key code number 2. While it does look amazing,
I'm gonna say number 2, Rev 1.
Yeah, the key code's number 2. There you go.
Although Starstone's Kepler's pretty damn good.
The Kepler's good. I feel like there's like one more that I'm just blatantly forgetting. The Evolve.
A board that doesn't exist yet. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Is the Fiel like a Subaru? I would say probably.
Stash, thank you for the 5 months. Dude, I missed your stream yesterday. I'm sorry, man. I saw it and I was like, it's like 11:30 in the morning. And I saw it was like stream at noon, boys. And I was like, fuck yeah, I kind of check in. And then I had to go run some errands. So my apologies. Check out Stash Builds boards.
You missed a great opportunity.
Oh, sorry. I was like,
even harder and say the Lumina. That's the number 1 board.
Dude. The Lumina is Anyway, let's find some.
Oh man.
It's like we're going to Miss Apiary. Guys, let's think of something. Let's think of something fun to say.
She said "fuck you" to you specifically.
Yeah, but she had a rough weekend.
She did. She did. Yeah, don't be a dick, people.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. We should just say "don't be a dick," and then oof. Mechs on oof. Don't be a dack. Don't be a dick. Mechs on oof. She's gonna be very confused if we say that.
I'm saying don't be a dick to Apiary. All right, throw that in. We've started the raid. Like I said, be sure to check out tomorrow. I'm really excited to watch this. And we will see. Osiris will see you then.
I'm building a 65% tomorrow. We're overthrowing Chewy.
Have fun. I will be not in the chat. All right, guys. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your evening watching Miss Awesome Apiary.
Bye now.
Bye, Switch Tester.